Okay, thyroid. It is true that if you have an underactive thyroid, that you do tend to have memory lapses, and you do have a problem with remembering. And the thyroid actually is very closely connected to neurotransmitters that occur in the brain. It's very important because it's an immune organ too, so it regulates a lot of other brain activity. So taking care of your thyroid, making sure that your thyroid is at its optimal, and that's both for men and women. Thyroid issues are not just a female issue, but it also can be a problem with men as well. So making sure that you take care of your thyroid. If you do blood work, what I normally recommend is measuring your TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone levels, and optimal thyroid is between 1 and 2. So anything above a 2, your thyroid is sluggish. Okay, but it's not sluggish enough for the doctors to treat you, but it's sluggish enough to affect your memory. It will make a difference on memory. Medication side effects. The medications, a lot of medications, unfortunately, do affect our memory. They have found more recently that the statin drugs, the ones that lower cholesterol, will long-term affect memory. So one of the supplements that I recommend very strongly when somebody's taking a statin drug is to take coenzyme Q10, because coenzyme Q10 is depleted very quickly when you're on a statin drug. And there's also other drugs that they have found, for instance, like blood pressure medications, and also diabetic medications will also deplete the body's production of coenzyme Q10. And normally our bodies produce coenzyme Q10 if we eat a really healthy diet. But what happens as we age, the body is not able to produce coenzyme Q10 as easily. And that's one of the reasons why we do all need to take that as a supplement. So when we cover the supplements, that's going to be one that I'll really get into. Okay, drug abuse, meaning, for instance, like cocaine and marijuana, those types of drugs. They have found that cocaine, what it does, it actually increases dopamine in the brain. And over time, it'll destroy the dopamine-producing cells in the brain, and that can make somebody much more prone to brain-related disorders like Parkinson's. So that's a very important thing. And, something like this should be taught in our schools for the children. And because you know what, nobody ever explains to people what the long-term side effects of cocaine are. You know that it's not healthy, but why isn't it healthy? What is it doing to the body? And this is one serious damage. Also, people who do cocaine have a much higher risk for stroke. And these are all based on studies. Looking at cigarette smoking, we know that cigarette smoking is bad for the lungs, but what it's also doing is that because it interferes with blood flow to the brain, it starts to affect the brain as well. So not only are you damaging your lungs, you're also damaging your brain as well. And cigarette smoke tends to destroy blood vessels, which further damages any oxygen flow that comes through to the brain. And that can cause anxiety. That can also cause anxiety. We think of anxiety as only being a mood kind of disorder, but it can also be caused by not enough blood flow to the brain. And same thing with depression. So some of these things could be actual physiological occurrences that may not be diagnosed. You may not know that that's happening. And that's one of the reasons why exercise is one of the best remedies for people that are prone to anxiety and depression, because it increases that blood flow to the brain and has a very calming effect. So let's take a look at supplements to help us slow down brain aging. One of the most important, as I mentioned earlier, is coenzyme Q10, but it's a very special form of coenzyme Q10 because coenzyme Q10 comes in many different forms. It's a form called ubiquinol, and I'll spell that for you. It's UBINOQUINOL. And that's the form that's an activated form that the body can readily use right away. So if you are going to get coenzyme Q10 supplements, just make sure you take the ubiquinol form of it. And the minimum to take is 100 milligrams to get any noticeable benefit. And you always take coenzyme Q10 with a meal, not with food. Unless you're taking a liquid form of it, then you take a little bit throughout the day. Then that's a better way to take the coenzyme Q10.
Ubiquinol.
Ubiquinol.
Spell it again, please.
Sure. Is that your question?
No, you said to take it with food, but not
Oh, did I say, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so take it with food, sorry, take it with food.
Okay.
Right. The only exception to that is if it's a liquid, then you don't take it with food. You actually sip it in a little bit of water throughout the day.
Can you also
Okay.
take that with, when you're sipping it, you can have it with a meal?
Yes, if you're sipping it, you can certainly have it with a meal. That would be fine. The minimum to take is 100 milligrams.
The max, what would the
Max, if it depends. If you're doing it for prevention, then I would say 300. If you're doing it for treatment for a particular condition, then you do a lot more than that. You do actually triple to even quadruple the amount. Yeah. So if somebody has Parkinson's, if a person has MS, I mean anything where the brain is involved in a lot of neurological conditions, then you take at least 900 to 1,200 milligrams a day. Yeah, you need a lot. Because the body uses up a lot of nutrients when there's a medical issue going on. So you deplete very quickly. So it's very important to take a lot more if you're doing it for a particular condition.
Did you say use liquid?
If you can find the ubiquinol, yes, form in the liquid, that's by far the best. Because you know what, then you take a little bit every couple of hours, and that's far more effective than just doing 100 milligrams once a day. So anytime you can do things in a liquid form where you can do a little bit throughout the day, it's far more effective, far more effective. Pardon?
Could you spell that again?
Sure, it's ubiquinol, ubiquinol. That's the medical name for coenzyme Q10. But you'll find in the stores, you'll see different forms of it, like ubiquinone. It's not the same thing. So it's very important that you get the right product, because otherwise you won't get results. Yes?
Food sources
Food sources, very good question. Actually, the richest food source of coenzyme Q10 is red meat. And of course, what is everybody doing as they get older? They're cutting back on their red meat. So it is very hard to get enough coenzyme Q10. That's why you do need to supplement. That's why that's very important. Okay.
if you were taking it, because you had mentioned if you're taking statins, what dosage would you recommend if you were
Yes,
taking
okay. If you're taking a statin drug, I usually recommend for every 10 milligrams of the statin drug, you take 100 milligrams of coenzyme Q10.
for every 10 milligrams of the statin?
Take 100, exactly. So if you're on 10 milligrams of Lipitor, you take 100 milligrams of coenzyme Q10. If it's 20 milligrams, you take 200 milligrams. But again, spacing out the dosage. Like do 100 twice a day as opposed to 200 at one time.
Oh, all right.
Much more effective, okay? Yes?
What if you don't eat meat for vegetarians?
Yes, vegetarians actually have a very high requirement for coenzyme Q10. Yes. That's why it's a very important supplement for them to take.
So is there any food source for that, or?
No, surprisingly, there isn't. The only source, and also for the other supplement for the brain that I'm going to talk about, it's only found in red meat, which we'll come to. But that's why taking the supplement is very critical. And as I mentioned, your body does not produce as much as you get older, unfortunately, so you actually need to supplement.
How double absorb that supplement from the pills, not from the food? It doesn't really absorb that as much as you think it is. Let's say you have like 300 milligrams, and your body can absorb, let's say, maybe only 100.
Yes, actually maybe even only 10%.
Maybe even less.
Right. If we can find it in the food, the problem is it's not a reliable source because you don't know how much you're getting in food. So that's another factor, unfortunately, with that. Okay, good.